Hi, everybody, welcome into Sports Talk Chicago. My name's Jon Zaghloul. Great to have you here on Channel 59.3 BPOD TV and Roku. Big show for today. We're going to break down the Bears head coach and GM candidates, talk about who they should hire come this offseason. That comes up in just a moment. Before we get started, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. If you want to watch more of this show, search up Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel or find us at sportstalkchicago.com. If you want to watch more shows from the BPOD TV network, search up BPOD TV on YouTube. I want to start today with this. Being thorough always leads to better results. That's a fact. If you rush something, if you cut corners, if you don't care, put in no effort, it's not going to work. Anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Can't cut corners. Have to be thorough, detailed, do your research. That's how it'll work. At your job, do you cut corners? Well, sorry, some of you may. Maybe you don't like your job, but if you want to be successful at it, you don't. You refuse. Have to put in time, research, effort, and eventually it works. I hate to give the Bears credit after Monday. After that debacle, that was the press conference from George McCaskey. But they are being thorough. I mean, have you seen the names that have shown up on this list for potential head coaches, GMs? How many guys they're interviewing? They've been thorough. There's so many people. We'll break that list down in a second, but there's so many people on the list. I've never seen an organization have 10 guys they want to interview. By the way, season isn't over yet. Mike Tomlin could be fired. Possible. People in the playoffs, other coaches, coordinators, GMs, executives could still be on the table once the season officially ends. So this list will continue to grow. They're being thorough. Doesn't mean they'll pick the right person. I mean, George McCaskey apparently isn't even a football evaluator, right? He's a fan. He's a fan. And the CEO and the chairman of the team, he's a fan. Ted Phillips, an accountant, is an accountant. I mean, that's just a fact. I don't even know if he's a fan. If he was a fan, this team would be better. Not a fan, accountant. Numbers guy. Fine. Want to worry about profits? So be it. But don't mix that crap with football operations. Don't mix that bottom line philosophy with football operations. Why? Because you'll be in the cellar every single year. Oh, what do you know? Bears are there. Oh, I am so happy they reassigned him, but the real shame is he's still there regardless. He will have some sort of say, whether it be small or big. The fact that his mouth will still be talking to that organization, making decisions, problem. I digress. No. The Bears have been exhausted. They've done a great job at locking up all these interviews, to their credit. Really. You know, I was worried. Truthfully, I was worried about this organization, these openings, and we heard last week that George McCaskey overruled Matt Nagy. It was admitted to at his press conference. So the question is, who would want to work here, right? What coach would want to work here when you're listening to a fan, not a football evaluator, a fan tell you what to do? Problem. But yet, a lot of people want this job. For some reason. Could be Justin Fields. Could be the organization itself, historic, great. And if you work for the Chicago Bears, no matter what, I don't care how bad they are, that's a pretty big accomplishment. Maybe these coaches and GMs see a future. There is a sliver of hope. And if Justin Fields works out, they can improve the O-line, secondary a bit, defensive line, which are things they can do with some cap space this year and smart draft picks. They could turn it around. Look at the Bulls. Took the Bulls 2 years to go from worst now to first. Not impossible. So a lot of people see this as somewhat of an attractive destination. I'm going to read through the list of names I have now. Starting with head coach, we'll go through each one of them, name them off, then I'll talk about who they should hire, or some of the positives and negatives with some of these guys they're talking to. Todd Bowles, Brian Daboll, whom we all know, Matt Eberflus, the Colts defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, Leslie Frazier, former Bear, Nathaniel Hackett, Byron Leftwich, Doug Peterson, Dan Quinn. That's what we know right now for head coach. There are goods and bads with each one of these guys. Todd Bowles is a defensive guru. Look at the Bucs defense right now. Everybody wants to talk about Tom Brady, good run game, Antonio Brown, but their defense is outstanding. Remember, their defense contained Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl, but even more than that, they've really been near the top of the league the past couple of years. Problem with Bowles is didn't work in New York. Now, who could? I mean, Adam Gase really can't get much worse than that. And Bowles did have an 11-win season with the Jets, but he had no quarterback. I'm fine with Bowles if he hires a good OC. I mean, plain and simple. Look, at the end of the day, no matter who the coach is, you have to find somebody who's going to develop Justin Fields. Todd Bowles, great candidate, great guy, good defensive guy, will not develop Justin Fields. He needs somebody to come in. If he knows somebody that he trusts, that he likes, I'm all for it. Todd Bowles, not a bad candidate. Brian Daboll, everybody's favorite and one of my favorites too. Brian Daboll made Josh Allen who he is today. Now, I know a lot of people in Buffalo don't like him. Josh Allen did regress this year. And who knows if he'll ever recapture that 2020 magic. Just for the record, I was never high on Josh Allen. Many people know this about me. This was from my pre-YouTube days even, when I used to do my radio shows only. I was never high on Josh Allen. Maybe I'm wrong. One great year, MVP-esque year. But this year's come back down to earth. The year before that, 20 touchdowns, 10 picks, nothing special. So Daboll managed to get one outstanding season out of Josh Allen. Great. Does that mean he'll develop Justin Fields? Well, that's the big question. I think he could do it. Josh Allen, similar in ways, other ways different. He's more bulkier, bigger quarterback, so easier to run the football with him. Justin Fields needs to really protect the football, not get hurt. That could be an issue. But that's an idea. I'm not opposed to Daboll coming here. Really, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't have a problem with that hire. One of the better hires with not as many downsides. The only downside, really, is that Josh Allen regressed. Hey, Mitch Trubisky worked. Remember that preseason game? I know it was preseason, but the Bears did play their starters. If he did that to Mitch Trubisky, imagine what he could potentially do to Justin Fields. I'm not opposed to it. Matt Eberflus, Colts defensive coordinator. Colts defense is fine. I mean, really this year, especially in that last game, that was an offensive problem. And I'm a big Carson Wentz guy. I am. That was an offensive problem. Carson Wentz did not show up to play. That's why it didn't work. Colts are not a bad team. Not a bad team defensively. They've been good defensively for a couple of years. The only downside, like Bowles, who are you going to bring in to develop Fields? He has to find a good OC. Brian Flores. Popular name. Not opposed, but I will say this. And take this how you will. We all saw how he handled Tua Tagovailoa, right? You remember, to his rookie year, tons of questions. Should he start? Should he sit? He's hurt. He's not hurt. Whatever. Put him in. Took him out. Ryan Fitzpatrick, too. And I'm all for winning. That's essentially what happened with Brian Flores last year. That's what happened. They had Tua in. The whole point of last season was to develop Tua. And they realized, oh, wait a minute, we're in this playoff hunt. We better prioritize winning. So, I guess smartly, he put in Ryan Fitzpatrick. The problem is that hurt Tua. mentally. And this year, Tua really didn't develop too much. I know he's a defensive guy, but he makes the decision whether Tua stays or goes. He made that decision. He was the one who wanted Deshaun Watson when he had a starting quarterback. I'm not saying Tua is great, but here's my point. Okay? Here's my point with this. He didn't hurt Tua. He did hurt Tua in some aspects. Mentally, big time. I mean, that was like Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky, that relationship, to an extent. It was. That's my issue with Flores. Will he be better? Will he actually care and treat Justin Fields with more respect than that? I get it. Justin Fields is a little bit more talented, yes, than Tua. Although we haven't seen Fields in a full year with a good head coach, good scheme, some weapons. Justin Fields is more raw talent, yes. But I am wary, and I'll always be wary now of Brian Flores. He really hurt Tua's mindset. Now everyone's going to say, well, Tua's a bust anyway. What are you talking about? Well, you know what? Some of you said the same about Mitch Trubisky, and Mitch Trubisky isn't horrible. Not horrible. The way Matt Nagy treated him definitely hurt his mindset. Yes, I was a backup. Fine. The same thing happened to Tua with Brian Flores. I'm a bit skeptical. That's my one issue with him. I think he's a great coach. I'm a huge fan because what he did in Miami, really, culture change. Miami finished 9-8 this year. Last year won 10 games. I mean, that's outstanding. But unfortunately, his one flaw just happens to be the most important position in football. How he treated his starting quarterback. That's a problem. And unless he fully buys Justin Fields, if he really thinks Justin Fields is great and won't mess around with his process, I'm all for it. But if he's going to pull the same crap he pulled with Tua, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then Tua this year, big problem. It's not going to work. We have to see what he plans on doing at the quarterback position. Leslie Frazier, former Bear, just not flashy. Leslie Frazier used to be the head coach for the Vikings, did all right. Known to be a defensive guru, but the Vikings were in the 20s each year in their defense when he coached. And now he's over at Buffalo. Was a member of the 1985 team. I mean, it would be a great press release, a cool moment. Hey, 85 Bear comes home. It'd be great. But what's he really going to bring to the table? Defensive guy, fine. Again, how will he develop Justin Fields? See, this is the number one question McCaskey, Phillips, whomever's doing the hiring should be asking. How are you going to develop Justin Fields? How will you do it? What's the plan? It's either I know what I'm doing or I'll bring in somebody who does know. I promise you, I know people, I'll do it. That's the question that everybody has to be asked. First question, day one. You don't know? Get the hell out. Nathaniel Hackett, Packers offensive coordinator? Yeah, no. Not because he's a Packer. This is Matt Nagy 2.0. Matt LaFleur is the offensive genius. I don't know who the hell this guy is. How many plays has he called? I'm asking, how many plays has he called? It's like Matt Nagy in Kansas City. Andy Reid called all the plays. Matt Nagy just kind of sat there, coached up a couple of quarterbacks. Great. Didn't work. I'm not going to sit here and deal with this crap again. What has he done? Matt LaFleur is the offensive mind over there. He's the genius. He's the reason they keep winning 13 games every single year when Mike McCarthy was winning 6 or 7. Matt LaFleur is the difference maker, not Nathaniel Hackett. Byron Leftwich. I would love this move. Don't know if it's going to happen. Don't really see it. I mean, look, the Buccaneers are a first-class organization now. Bruce Arians head coach, Tom Brady. Who in their right mind, I'm just being honest, who would leave Tom Brady for Justin Fields? Who would leave Tom Brady for anybody? That guy's got it made. They're winning, always winning, Super Bowl-esque every year, getting paid good money in Tampa Bay. I would not leave there unless my life depended on it. I suggest you interview him, and if he says yes somehow, take him. He used to be a quarterback. I remember watching Byron Leftwich as a kid, playing Jacksonville. Him and David Garrard would split time. Not a bad player, and a really good offensive coordinator. I'm not opposed to it, but the problem is, again, not going to leave. Not going to leave at all. Doug Peterson. Good and bad. Won a Super Bowl, knows Nick Foles, so I guess if they hire Doug Peterson, maybe Nick Foles will stick around. So, I mean, that's a reason really not to hire him. But more than that, similar situation. Carson Wentz, Nick Foles. I don't want to hire a coach who's been involved in the past with a quarterback controversy. Look, maybe I'm scarred from what's happened the past couple of years. Maybe I'm stupid. But you know what? I don't think that's going to be helpful. If they're known in the past to cause quarterback controversies, to deal with these problems like that, you expect them to change? Well, what if Justin Fields, everybody's favorite guy, can't perform next year? What if they bench Justin Fields? It's not impossible. Then what's the reaction going to be? I want somebody to come in who can pledge that they will develop Justin Fields. If there's any hesitancy, or if you look at their past and they are speaking out of their ass, well, I wouldn't hire him. Doug Peterson scares me. Super Bowl, that's great. Great, I'm happy. Amazing. I just don't buy it. I don't buy Doug Peterson. Had a great defense, great O-line, decent enough run game, and Nick Foles. Then when Wentz got healthy, came back the next year, problems, back and forth, who's going to start, big issues, and he got fired for a reason. He got fired. He was out the door right away. Problem. 2 years after winning a Super Bowl, fired. That should be a big red flag. And then Dan Quinn. Don't hire Dan Quinn. Don't do it. Disaster in Atlanta. Don't even waste your time. Great defensive mind. Good coordinator. He's in Dallas. Come on, just stay there. You're fine. Chicago doesn't need you. Chicago really doesn't want you. You're winning in Dallas, making good money again. You're in Texas. Stay there. Don't come here. Nobody wants you. He did nothing of significance in Atlanta. Nothing. And they fired him mid-season, too. They fired him. Not the best candidate. Give him an interview, sure, but not the best candidate. Out of all these coaches, each of them have some issues, for sure. And I would say right now, if you want to ask me who to favor, number one would be Byron Leftwich. Mike Tomlin may come on this list, and if somehow, some way he does, hire Mike Tomlin right away. So Tomlin, Leftwich, no question. Flores, Dable, Bowles. I wouldn't be mad if any of those guys were hired. I really wouldn't be. Wouldn't be a problem to me. Only exception with Bowles is that I would hope he brings in a good OC to develop Justin Fields. All those guys, I'm all for. But I'm going to have a problem. Guys like Peterson or Quinn, who really don't even belong in this conversation. Yeah, try and compare Byron Leftwich to Dan Quinn. You can't. It just won't work. I hope the Bears get this right. Fortunately, they're being thorough, but that doesn't mean they'll get it right. We have to wait and see. GM candidates so far, the ones that we know of. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah from the Browns. Morocco Brown from the Colts. Ran Carthon from the 49ers. Glenn Cook from the Browns. And Dodds from the Colts. Jeff Ireland from the Saints. Omar Khan from the Steelers. Joe Shane from the Bills. Rick Smith from the Texans. Elliott Wolf from the Patriots. My goodness, such a long list of candidates here. A lot of people. As far as the two Browns guys go, they do know how to draft. They've drafted some good players defensively, offensively. Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett. Made some moves. They had Odell Beckham. Baker Mayfield isn't a total bust. Did great last year. Hired Kevin Stefanski, offensive genius. Not bad. Not opposed to them being here. Now, my top people for this position, Morocco Brown is one. the Colts director of college scouting. Look at the Colts. Now, I get it. Didn't make the playoffs this year. Big problem. Director of college scouting. They've gotten a lot of things right over the years. Really. Andrew Luck. Quentin Nelson. Nelson's going to be a Hall of Fame offensive lineman. Jonathan Taylor. They got that right, too. Potential MVP candidate. I like what the Colts have done. And I certainly like Brown. Some footage came out of him from Hard Knocks. This guy's no nonsense. Wouldn't have a problem with the Bears hiring him. Another guy I really want to watch is Omar Khan from the Steelers. So Omar Khan, just so you know, has been a candidate for a GM opening for a while. Khan's been there with the Steelers for years, 10, 15 years. Just look at that organization. They are first class organization. They really are. And the Steelers do great every year. Think about who they had, who they drafted. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Najee Harris, Juju Smith-Schuster, Ben Roethlisberger, the Penders, Troy Polamalu, even other running backs, Willie Parker. I mean, they've had good players for years that they've drafted. I would love that hiring. That's my favorite personally. And again, who knows who else is going to be available by the time we talk about this in a couple of weeks. Problem for the Bears is now they have some competition. I mean, the Vikings need a GM and a head coach. Giants do too. I'll tell you this much. Giants, New York, big market, they're going to be commanding top talent. The Bears will too, here in Chicago. So it's going to be tough for them to find somebody when they're competing against two great franchises. My hope is that the Bears' selling point, and the Bears' selling point should be Justin Fields. If you're going to sell something, sell Justin Fields. I'm not ready to call him a bust yet. Didn't have a good year, that's a fact. Not ready to call him a bust. You could tell a GM and a head coach, hey, we have a second-year quarterback. He needs some help. But there's talent. There's potential. That could be a selling point. Tell you one thing, though. Easier to sell Justin Fields than Daniel Jones. Easier to sell Justin Fields than Kirk Cousins and $35 million guaranteed. When the Bears are competing with the Giants and the Vikings for a head coach and a GM, they have a real selling point here. They do. It's not nonsense. I don't care if you think Justin Fields is a bust or not. The fact is, we don't know yet. We don't know. That's something you could sell. And look, second-year quarterback, great potential, great at Ohio State. You have a chance to mold him into what he's supposed to be, what we envision him of being. You could do it. And if you do it and you work hard enough, you have a franchise quarterback sitting right there. Daniel Jones, sorry, not a franchise quarterback. Kirk Cousins, going to be out the door. Going to be out the door, way too much money to pay him. Vikings are cap-strapped because of that contract. Bears are going to have cap space open up, but even more than that, they have a quarterback. May not be the answer, we don't know yet, but they have an option, a viable option. Who could be the answer? See, we know about Daniel Jones. Not an answer. He sucks. Sorry, hate to break it to you, he sucks. Kirk Cousins. Not a bad quarterback to me, but can't win a big game. And way too much money. Way too expensive. So if you're the Bears and you're trying to sell these positions, look to Justin Fields. You're not going to sell people on George McCaskey or Ted Phillips or whomever is going to be doing the hiring. Not going to sell them on, oh, hey, got a couple of good defenders, David Montgomery. I love David Montgomery. Still won't sell people on a running back. You're going to sell people on the quarterback, the city, the market, and potentially the new stadium. Pretty easy. I can see it now. I can see the whole pitch. Hey, look. New quarterback. Could develop him, new stadium, new era in Bears football. Come be a part of it. It's like an infomercial, but it is. It's true. That's what I would do if I'm selling to any of these candidates. That's how I would play it. Omar Khan, personally, is my favorite for GM. That's who I like. And as far as coach goes, Byron Leftwich would be unbelievable if he decided to leave. Or Mike Tomlin if he gets fired. All these other guys I'm okay with, as I mentioned earlier. Some of them, some issues, causes for concern. That's why there's an interview process. And we're going to have to see what the Bears do. Now, they've screwed it up before. They could certainly do it again. And if they do, we're back at square one, I guess, for the Bears. But I would hope, with them being more thorough, with them investing time in Bill Polian, maybe something will give. We have to hope so anyway. Thanks for watching today's show here on BPOD TV, channel 59.3 in Roku. Really appreciate the time. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. If you want to watch more of this show, search up Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube or go to sportstalkchicago.com. Great shows coming up this week. Make sure you stay tuned and tune it right here every night at 10:30 on BPOD TV. So long, everyone.